Next item on the agenda is Neil and Carol Christensen. Would you state your names for the record, please?
My name is Neil Christensen.
I'm Carol Christensen and our son Jim.
Oh, he can do that himself.
Jim Christensen.
Thank you. Okay, the 30124 56th Avenue, Cushing, after the fact application for a variance to continue the house addition, attached garage onto a non-conforming structure and patio expansion within the shore impact zone. Located on Lake Alec in Scandia Township. Staff report.
Yep, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Amy.
This is an after-the-fact variance to keep the expansion of a non-conforming structure and impervious surface within the shore impact zone located in section 35 of Scandia Valley Township. The ordinance references for this is 301, 301.6A, 706.1, 706.1A, and D, and 706.3. Here's a plat map of Scandia Valley Township, and the red dot is the location of the parcel. And then here is the variance request received from the applicant. And a site drawing also provided by the applicant. And then here is the aerial photograph with the parcel outlined in blue. And then some comparison photos from 2013 to 2020. And then some photos provided by the applicant. And there's another aerial. And then here's some oblique imagery of the parcel. And then here's a shot from the shoreline. And then here are some photos taken at the viewing on the 27th of June. Again, the property is in Section 35 of Scandia Valley Township. It is on Lake Alexander, which is a general development lake. It is a conforming single lot, which means it's at least 30,000 square feet and 120 feet wide. The property is 140 feet wide and 30,360 square feet. The property was put in the applicant's name in 2014. However, he corrected that he's always been on that. It just switched from his sister's name. Is that correct?
My sister,
Yeah.
her name was taken off.
Correct. According to the assessor's records, the dwelling was built in 1950 with an addition in 1980 for a total of 1,240 square feet. According to aerial photo review, the home is approximately 42 feet from the lake. A 22 by 14 boathouse is also on the water's edge. Permitting and violation history of the property. Do you want me to go through this, Mr. Chair? It's long. Do you want me to go through this? Since it was in your packet, do you want me to review it?
Anybody else want to do that, or have you all had plenty of chance to review it on your own?
I think we could waive it.
Okay. I have it in the slides in case you want to refer back to it.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm just going to note that the permitting and violation history on the property is here. And then we're going to jump to on June 12th, the applicants attended a development review team meeting to discuss constructing an entryway. Actually, let me go back just a hair. We'll start with June 2017 because that's kind of got us where we are now. So on June 1st, 2017, the applicant applied for a permit to construct a 28 by 28 detached garage for personal storage, meeting all setbacks. And the permit was approved on June 6th, 2017. And then on June 12th, 2017, the applicants attended a development review team meeting to discuss constructing an entryway and the garage onto the back of the cabin. The items discussed at that meeting were that a variance was needed to place any additions onto the home, the criteria that must be met for a variance, that there was room on the property to build a conforming detached garage, and the recommendation that if asking for a variance, there should be some consideration to remove some of the concrete going to the lake and the boathouse. In January 2022, the Land Services Department received a complaint that the permitted garage was attached to the home, the patio area in the shore impact zone had been expanded, and the failing septic system had not been upgraded, and the privy on site had not been included in the 2015 septic inspection. A first notice of violation was sent on February 17th, 2022. Then the applicants attended a development review team meeting on May 23rd, 2022 to discuss an after-the-fact variance request to keep the entryway and attached garage and the expanded patio area. The applicant is requesting two variances, an after-the-fact variance to keep the entryway and garage, and an after-the-fact variance to keep the expanded patio area within the shore impact zone. Here is a submitted impervious surface calculation, and the impervious surface calculation is 15.76%. At the 2022 development review team meeting, staff discussed the following with the applicant, that the applicant was informed at the 2017 DIRT meeting that a variance must be granted to construct additions onto the existing dwelling, that they had applied for a detached garage and ended up building a house addition and an attached garage, despite the information at the 2017 DIRT meeting. Although impervious surface calculation is under 25%, most all of it is either within the shore impact zone or the setback to the lake, which it makes it more impactful to the resource. The applicant understood they could replace existing buildings, which was true, but a permit was needed and couldn't be transferred to be an addition onto the home. And then the question was if the applicant was open to removal of the patio area and or the boathouse, and the response was no, they wanted to keep everything. The rationale for expanded patio area was fire safety during drought periods, and discussed was the Board of Adjustment may struggle with the after-the-fact criteria as the violation appears willful. The applicable comprehensive land use plan goals is natural resources and open spaces, goal C2. Shoreline development, goal D1. The water plan goals and objectives, surface water goal, objective B. Land use and development goals, objectives B and D. 58 notices were sent. No comment was received prior to the public hearing. And then, Mr. Chair, here are your finding of fact and decision questions. And then I also do have the after-the-fact variance considerations here too. I just want to remind the board when you're voting on that first set, you would be considering this request as if it were coming to you. You're going to scrub away the fact that it's an after-the-fact. You're going to consider it on its face. And then if all of those are answered in the affirmative, if at the discretion of the Board of Adjustment, you can then consider the after-the-fact considerations after that, if you wish. So.
Okay, thank you, Amy. I think this might be a good time to, if you could review on the letter Land Services sent to them in February of 2022, February 17, 2022. Do you have a slide with those corrective actions that were?
Yes, I can pull them. I need a notes sheet, please.
I was just curious where we were at on those corrective actions, if anywhere.
Yeah, so give me one moment and I will pull those up. I don't have them on the PowerPoint, but I can absolutely pull it up. I think I had two in one of them and I don't know which one.
You have it in your packet. You know what I'm referring to. Okay.
Okay, you're looking for the violation letter?
Yes.
Okay.
And the corrective actions, you've got 7 listed there.
Yep, and can you, Mr. Chair, which figure is that? That's just helpful to me to know.
Figure 6.
Figure
Oh,
6,
6, yeah.
okay, thank you. All right, I just need to open it, Mr. Chair, and rotate it. It's not cooperating with me tonight.
Maybe you'd like to go the other way.
Oh, yeah. Actually, you want the corrective action, so I'm gonna get to the 3rd page of the letter.
Yeah. Okay.
And since this is Sharon's complaint, I'm not sure I can rotate this on this. Let me look here. Maybe it'll do it for me. You do have it in your packet,
Yes.
though. I'll leave it up here just for the record, but everyone has it in their packet, so.
Okay, there's some, like the first statement, and if you could review those, is this a good time to do that?
Absolutely.
And what, if anything, has happened?
Yep, let me pull the upright version of it out of my packet here. Okay. So first one, by March 22nd, remove the house addition, the attached garage and expanded portions, or apply for an after-the-fact variance. That's why we're here today. They've done that. The second one, and item 3 then, would be apply for permits for any portion of the patio that meets the 50-foot setback from the lake, and remove any portions of patios that do not meet 50-foot setback from the lake. Was any permitting done for the patios, Sharon? No, okay. So no permitting has done for any of the patios. And then number 4, abandon or remove the privy or have it inspected. To my knowledge, that has not been done. Okay, so neither one of those has been done. And then by March 22, reapply for septic holding tank permit and have the holding tank installed, or remove any plumbing into the structure. Has none of that has been done either.
Okay, I assume the privy is on the property because of the failed septic system, and
I don't believe so. I think that privy has been there since the dawn of time. So I think the privy has always been there, and then over time, that holding tank had been
Okay.
installed.
now when there's a failed septic system, can the property be used? I thought I read that it cannot.
Yeah, well, it'll get a violation letter, as you see in
Yep.
the violation history. They've been notified of that violation, and I'll go back to that, so give me one moment. Let's see here. So, let me get back to that. So in 2015, the septic system was inspected and the drain field failed for separation. And then it was advised at that time that the tank should be inspected at that time. So in December of 2015, we sent them a letter letting them know what their options were, what they needed to do. And when we have a failing system, they are given 1 year to get that upgraded. And so because it wasn't upgraded within that 1 year time frame, then that first notice of violation was sent on January 30th of 2017.
Yep, that's what I'm kind of looking at.
And then when they pulled their permit for the garage, because the system was failing and they were gonna be required to do something with it, they pulled a permit to install a holding tank, but didn't install it. So, so that was the caveat for the garage, was that would need to be addressed as well, and so they pulled the permit but didn't install. And then, So shortly before, then they applied for the permit to install the holding tank, and then shortly after that, then applied for the permit for the garage, and they were granted that because they had pulled the permit for the holding tank, but then wasn't installed.
So I guess still, my question is, are they able to use their, with a failed septic system?
We have no ability to cut off someone's, it's
I mean,
it's
the
an
ordinance says-
ongoing, yes, it's an ongoing violation. It will get to the point, if they don't do it, we'll have to charge it out in court. That is when, anytime we have any unresolved violation, that's what will happen. And so we're on the cusp of that occurring for the septic system.
Okay. All right, thank you for clarifying that. So it's generally at this point that I ask the applicant for input. I mean, it's 8:30. There are many, many rabbit trails to go down here if we decided to, or we could just cut to the chase. I guess I'd like to ask you up front, the corrective actions, what, if any, of those are you willing to take? I mean, why not start there instead of us pussyfooting around and saying, why did you do this, why did you do that? What are you willing to do?
Carol is going to do the talking.
Okay,
We applied for a permit for that, we'll address the sewer system first, or that.
well, corrective actions, just
Okay.
stick to the list if you would. I don't want us to get off onto any, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
Okay,
just one at a time.
find that page again. Okay, we applied for the permit, first one I wanted, I can't, oh, here it is. Okay, we applied for the permit
Okay.
for the building. So that, number one is taken care of. Number two is the after the fact, that one we've applied for too. So that's taken care of. Number three, the permit for the patio, we haven't done anything on that until we find out what you want us to do on that. So that we haven't done. Remove the privy, we haven't removed it, but it hasn't been used. It's there yet, it's been there since 1950, 60.
Been remodeled a couple. Sure.
But it's there, but that can be taken down, that's not a problem. The septic system, when we went in to apply for a permit for it, I think it was Sharon that said, let's wait until this hearing. And we have talked to Altrichter again, and I wasn't in on a lot of that, so I guess you're gonna have to talk about that, Neil.
We talked to Mike. He was out at the place. He was doing some other plumbing, but he stopped, and he's working on a design. I said, we might want to put in a mound system instead of a holding tank. And when I talked to you guys yesterday, was it yesterday? Okay.
Yeah.
That you would prefer a mound system over a holding tank. Now, it's gonna cost a lot more money, I'm aware of that, but Mike said there was plenty of room to get a mound system in there and have it work properly. So that's what, and the reason that holding tank didn't get put in, Mike was so busy then, he just,
Forgot.
and I didn't bug him every day. So, I mean, but I know he was busy, and he said he did the best he could, but he couldn't make it, so that's where that stands, so.
Okay, so you intend to remove the outhouse, you intend to upgrade your sewer system ASAP on both, I assume?
And what,
As soon as possible on both,
Yes.
I assume?
As soon as we get the permits.
Okay, well, let's, again, cut to the chase here, and let's get up to number 3. By March 22nd, apply for permits for any portion of patio that meets the 50-foot setback from the lake, and remove any portion of the patio that does not meet the 50-foot setback from the lake. Stumbling point number 1, are you willing to do that? I mean, stumbling point for me to go any further if you're not willing to do that.
well, here's the deal.
Okay,
I'm a little bit, well, I'm old. Carol's old also, but I'm not quite as agile as I used to be. I can't do half of what I used to do. And the safety factor is utmost concern to us. I just soon not fall and break my head open or whatever, and falls do happen. They say if you're 65 or older, you're gonna have one out of four, you're gonna have a fall, and I believe it. But otherwise, some of that I'm willing to do, but then again, the safety factor, and I got this walker, knee walker. If you're not careful on that, you can end up on the ground pretty quick, pretty skittish. So if we have to take out a lot of that concrete, I'm in trouble.
The portion, the patio portion is where when you were out yesterday, where that burning fire pit was. We can take that out if we have to.
Okay, back to my question. Are you willing to remove any portion of any portions of patio that does not meet the 50-foot setback to the lake? Anything that does not meet the 50-foot setback. Your house is 40 feet from the lake.
Does that mean the stuff that's been in there since the 90s?
It's all unpermitted and not allowed.
Even though it's there from the 90s?
It's all unpermitted and not allowed.
Mr. Chair, the violation is that additional piece, so let me
Right.
get back. So that's what the corrective action is this, and there is a portion of this that does meet that 50-foot setback. So this is what's subject to the variance request. The rest of it then would be something you would discuss as far as if you're looking at granting something in exchange for, it would be a condition.
Okay, why in your corrective actions did you ask for all portions of the patio that does not meet the 50-foot setback be removed?
Because if you go to let me get to the other page here. If you look at the list of violations, let's see here, let me find it. Or actually the findings, let's see. Number seven, in the findings was, no permits have been issued to expand the existing patio
Okay.
within the shore impact zone or to add patios to the property. So the aerial photo shows expansions of patios. So the scope of this violation letter was what they had added. And they pointed out at the viewing what they had
Not all of
added.
the
That's
patio.
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
Amy, I think you can reiterate this. He talked about the safety factor, getting down to the lake. I believe he's allowed a walkway to the lake.
Mobility paths are allowed, yes.
And those are permittable right through your office?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, over the counter.
But are we talking about the portion that was added, that portion on the
Correct,
side?
the two portions that.
And are we
So
willing to
what you're
pay-
seeing in the photo, this was added.
Right.
Correct? Actually, let me get back to the before and after. This might demonstrate better. Let me get these two photos side by side, so you can see the change. This is what, excuse me, this area
Right.
and in this area here are the two areas that are subject. There's also the area that is to the side of the house. Right here?
Yeah.
Yes.
The sidewalk going.
Yep, so all of the areas that are different from here to here,
Okay.
that's what's subject to the
That's what your
variance.
number 3 was referring to?
Correct.
Okay,
That's what we're
it sounds like it
referring
was
to.
referring to everything.
Yes.
Okay,
So can we address that?
sure,
Okay.
that'd be good.
The sidewalk on the right of that, the little portion there where the tree was there and we took the tree down because it was dead and added that little portion there. when we looked at it yesterday, we showed you how it's not slanted like this, but it's slanted so when the water comes off of like the roof of the building, it goes back to the back of the house. And intentionally put that way for that. But it's also there for safety reasons, for getting around on that corner. So that's why that one was put there. The one on the other side, the portion where the burning thing is there, was put there because of the drought conditions and the safety for that. And if we have to, we can take that one out. But the sidewalk going along the side of the house and the pavers down, which is also marked on there, is for safety to get around the house, for Neil to be able to do that.
Yeah, some of these
disabilities.
things are out of the shore impact zone, out of the first 50 feet,
Right.
and possibly are permittable, so.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry I stated that was all that was in the request, but now I understand. Still, that would be my request, that it all be removed from the shore impact zone, because that is the intent of the ordinance, to have shorelines that are natural, shorelines that slowly soak water up, that are pervious surfaces, not impervious, shorelines that are attractive, shorelines that are in keeping with the essential character of the neighborhood. So that would be what I would request as a condition, that everything out of this, all of the patio in the shore impact zone be removed. But that's just me. We'll see what the rest of them have to say on the subject and other subjects. Okay. Anything you'd like to add at this point besides going through this list, which you just did?
Well, I'd like to know exactly what you're saying we should remove. Now, you got a picture here. You're saying we should take all of that concrete out?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Amy.
I think we need to get back to the request instead of kind of this horse trading. What do you want us to do? What should we do? How would you vote if I did this and that? So
Okay.
I think if we can stay on task with what the variance request is, ask questions related to their request.
Okay.
And then if you start talking about conditions, then this would be maybe where you would do this, but this is outside the scope of the variance request anyway, so we probably shouldn't be going down this road.
Okay. Yes, that's what my proposal was. Short answer for now, but we'll get back to that later. Okay, gentlemen, questions on the variance requests?
Mr. Chair, something that when you were FaceTime videoing me, you were going over some area that said, boy, this is impervious surface, it was dirt, gravel, whatever. Did we ever come up with a real amount that how many % is impervious rather than just what was submitted? Because I think there was a substantial amount there.
Yeah, that was on the, as we're looking at the house from the lakeside to the left, there's a parking area. Carol and I were looking at it. It's about 20 by 40, wasn't it? Is that what I
That'd be- yeah,
faced
something.
off? And that wasn't included, yes, right there. And that was not included in the impervious surface calculations that
I
that
think
Carol had made.
I think when we went over it, it was.
Oh, okay, I could not find it on there.
There,
I think they're still under 25%,
yeah.
but
quite a bit
where it's at
under.
is a question.
I think I did put that on. Okay, here.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, nevertheless, I don't think we've got an impervious surface issue, even if that hadn't
No,
been counted.
No, I don't think so either.
Okay, and part of it
Location
was
of
what
it.
all the additional concrete and where we were getting at.
Yeah.
And I think we know quite well what's been happening to a lot of these lakes because of the waterways being diverted. And you obviously, we can use the Chaminade and see what's happened over there. And having a filtering area in Ellick is a beautiful lake, and you want to keep it look beautiful. It's an asset to the community. So how we handle this, you're a steward to it also here. So that was one item I had a question on. The other question is, have you ever had a stormwater management plan being done to this property? Because, you know, you'd say it's naturally flowing away, and it may, and, you know, here, has that been done, or is that something we're looking at possibly doing?
Mr. Chair, you certainly could talk about that if you're looking at conditions.
Yeah. Yeah, Amy had suggested that we look at each of the variances requests and then talk about conditions later,
Okay.
or what ifs later, sausage later.
Yeah, we're making a lot of sausage right now.
Yes, yes, we have. Hopefully it's got us somewhere. Okay, let's talk about the, I guess we've reviewed the concrete patio. We've reviewed that, why it's there, and their purpose or reason for requesting that. Okay, what, the connecting of we could go back to the permit for the garage. Notice in 2017, Neil, you had sketched the permit. They were separated, signed it. You were at a DRT meeting a few days later, a week later, that reviewed what you can and can't do on your property. Yet, here we are today with all of those things that you reviewed on the list of after the facts. One of them being the concrete patio. The other is connecting the garage to the house. Do you have questions, guys, on any of that?
Well, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Brent.
I would question just a couple things. I'm curious if you got a permit for a detached garage and you had a DRT meeting discussing the detached garage, how did it then become somehow attached without a variance to do so?
I can answer that. When we went to this meeting with the planning committee or whatever it was, they told us that you can replace a structure that you already have. That's legal to do. And we had, and I put pictures in when I sent it back, of the structure that was in between there. It was like a 12 by 20 storage building, pump house. Not on that one, it's on the next picture I think you had. Okay, there's the building, the top one is the first building there. And we took that out, and that's what's between the garage, that 28 garage, and the cabin, and replaced that. And when we got to starting on it, when they were laying it out, it was about, we think, 2 inches. We didn't measure it, but 2 feet. Yeah, not 2 inches, 2 feet. But the overhang from the cabin and that were overlapping. And so I came in to here to see if that means that it's overlapping, that it can be considered one unit. And the person I talked to said, well, I really can't answer that, but I'll have somebody get back to you. And nobody got back to us, and so we used the judgment. This is the time when Neil was ill and was not in on a lot of this and was deemed at that time disabled, and so we did a lot of it, how it was done on our own with our family. And we assumed, being we didn't hear and that they said we could do it, so we connected that building and the garage. When it came to put an entryway from the garage into that building, that 12 by 28 in between, we could have left the door off and just not entered from the garage. Or with his disability and at the time what was going on, we thought a safe entrance was an option that we should do. We didn't check with anybody, we just put it in. We had a well-lit place with railings, and in the future, it's designed for a wheelchair ramp if that's necessary. Checked, the lawyer told us, we didn't check then, but the lawyer told us that under the American Disability Act, that you're entitled to safety for entrance into your place that you live, and that they're look out for safety for people that are disabled. And so we just assumed we were doing the right thing, but that's why we need an after-the-fact variance now, because we didn't do it right.
Yep, and we're tasked with looking at this with a clean slate. What would we have permitted at the time?
Exactly.
Safe access to your home, we would have permitted. Would we have permitted it in the form that you chose? Possibly not. Would we have conditioned it? Probably, because you're so close to the water, 40 feet away. So, with that in mind, any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Brent.
I just had another question regarding the notice that was sent in, if I'm seeing this right, 2015 was the first notification of the sewer not conforming, is that right? We're now in 2022, that's 7 years later. Is that the same septic operating today that was operating in 2015? Okay.
And Mr. Altricker was out then and inspected it and looked at it and didn't tell us we needed a new one at that point until we applied for the permit. Then we were told we needed a new one.
But the permit that was issued addressed this?
Yeah, in
Correct.
2017, yeah. And we tried. I mean, he was out and gave us a price and told us what we needed and said he was gonna do it, and then was busy. And then with Neil being sick, we kind of forgot about it. Where the cabin is used from Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day weekend. The water is turned off then, and so we weren't even out there. Or
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, the sewer is really not on our plate tonight, is it? I mean, it's
No.
good questions, gives us some background possibly as to why all these things have happened that are not seemingly, as they should have, but that might be all.
Yeah, as part of my staff report, I give you the property history, and that's part of the property history.
Excuse me? Oh, the viewing, yes. Yesterday, Marv via FaceTime, myself, Dave Brucher, and Clint and Amy were out, and then I know I met Brent on my way out, and I assume you made it in
Yes.
and viewed the property, for the record. You can't do that to us, guys. We get on one subject, then you change the subject. It's hard to find our way back.
Okay. Chair,
Go ahead, Clint.
it's time to move on, but I gotta. So, just so you guys understand, this stuff here that we gotta look at, it's a lot. It's ordinances and it's rules, and a lot of stuff wasn't followed. Myself, I don't want a garage to get tore down or nothing like that, so it's hard for us to really work hard and go through this and do that. And I don't want to offend you. You guys are older, so you forget, maybe don't understand these things. I understand that. Jim, do you have anything you can weigh in on any of this? Do you know any of this stuff, or,
I pounded nails.
okay? Okay. So then one thing I just want to add to the board when we're going through this, because I'm sure it's gonna come up. When we were at that site visit yesterday, we did look, if that's a condition that you want, Marv, for the stormwater, you know, I'm fine with it. But everything that I can see goes away from the lake except for the cement kind of goes down. You know, the old cement. The new cement that's on the corner of the house, not where the fire pit is, but the opposite. I know it's after the fact, it's adding more impervious surface, but looking at it, what I see, where that eave, the way that house is, and they got this little chute thing and the water comes down, it does help so that it don't hit the ground and erode it. And it does turn, it does make the water go away from the road, or the lake, okay? I'm not sticking up for the fire pit, I'm just
You're
saying.
talking about where the tree was
Yes.
removed and the
Yep.
corner went, okay.
And then if that comes out, that does make it a little bit tougher for him to get around with his thing, okay? That's all I'm speaking on that part, just so you, but the water does, what we can observe, it all pretty much goes away from the lake except for that old cement that goes right down to the dock.
And Mr. Chair, anything outside of the 50-foot can be permitted.
Yep.
So that walkway can be permitted.
Yeah,
So it's really,
yep. So I just wanted to bring that up so you guys understand.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Trent.
Amy, do you have an overlay of where that 50-foot line
I'm
crosses
not
over
sure
that
if I
concrete?
do, but I can pull up Beacon real quick, so give me just a moment to do that.
Well, while we're waiting for that, I'd like to echo what Clint said, that I'm not looking at you tearing your garage down either. I don't know, does anybody have that in mind? Is there somehow, some way that could stay? What could we trade up? I think that's what I was trying to attack from
Well-
the beginning with the patio.
We have to answer the questions to
Harry,
make it,
you
you know.
can't horse trade like that. You
Okay,
have
okay.
to answer the questions.
Well, I'm trying to cut time, but I'm making it
You
longer,
are
I'm
making
sorry.
it worse.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead, Dave.
can we get to a point where we just vote on some of this
Yeah.
stuff? I mean.
I think that's a good
you know,
idea.
I think that, because there's a lot going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Let's get this map quick and then we'll move on and let's go through this.
Okay. So, did I request public input? I have not requested that yet. It's hard to keep track. Public input, any public input? Asked 3 times, there is none. Okay, close to public input.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
these are dirty measurements off the aerial. We would be working off the ordinary high water elevation. So a majority of this could be permitted, but we would be working off the ordinary high in the field in order to see what would be able to be
A majority of
permitted.
what
Or I'm
could-
sorry, none of it can be, I mean, according to this, it's all within the 50 feet. But we would work off the ordinary high water mark to see if any of it could. This is just the measurement from the aerial.
But the sidewalk that's on the back side of the house,
Yes.
almost all of that
Correct,
is okay,
correct.
For permitting.
yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. The rest of it would need a variance in order to stay.
Okay, on to the questions. Are we going to answer all the questions with all the variances, or with all the requests in mind?
Mr.
or
Chair.
One at a time?
I thought you guys gotta decide, but mine would be that the garage, the cement behind the house, and that little piece in the corner would be on one question, and that other added concrete be a separate.
Say it again.
Okay, so the garage and that addition, the cement,
Give me just a moment. Let me get a slide up. And that way I can follow what you're saying. I got too much stuff open here. Okay, let me go to, I'm not sure if I have, oh, maybe I don't have
Just
that
an overhead
slide.
picture, I think I could point out what I'm talking about.
Yeah, let me get the best one, okay?
Okay, yeah.
So you want part of
Okay.
the pavement in one variance and part of it in a different one?
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, so this concrete on
that doesn't need a variance.
okay, then we don't have to worry about it. I want this piece of concrete. So that would be in
So you want to vote separately on that?
that with the house.
Okay,
The other cement could be separate.
okay. That's up to the Board of
That's what I'm
Adjustment.
asking.
Well, we don't know, Mr. Chair, would you, I visually can't see what you're proposing.
Oh, I know.
So if you look on, can you see my cursor?
Correct.
Okay. This with this together, and then this separate. So you'd have two votes, this one, and then this with this.
So Amy, also, I look towards that waterway from that fire pit. It looks like there's a huge, a new concrete slab poured towards, yeah,
No, that's the boathouse.
oh, that's the boathouse, that's what's,
That's the roof
Okay.
of the boathouse.
Yeah,
okay,
Yeah.
that's,
this is the chunk where the,
yep.
That's you guys all want it the same. I'm just thinking ahead, that's all.
I think it's easier if we split them.
Yeah, I'd say, I'd agree to split them, but maybe look at the garage separate, the concrete separate. I don't know why you'd want to separate those two pieces of concrete. They're just concrete.
Mr. Chair, it's
That-
it's the board's call.
Yep, it's your call. That's my proposal, concrete separate from the garage.
I guess, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Brett.
Amy, if you could pull up the variance request, because it's,
The application or just the listed?
the two variance requests that were
You bet.
submitted to us.
Yes, give me just a moment to do that. Is this the slide you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just do them separate that way, that's fine.
Yeah,
I think
Yep.
that concrete should.
I agree with that, that's, one is written right there.
sounds good. Everybody agreed? Yep. Okay, thank you. Okay, after the fact variance, keep the entryway and garage. That's what we are discussing.
So
And
that's what you're doing first?
Yeah.
The house addition and attached garage?
Yes.
Okay.
K is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan. Again, we're looking at this before the fact. If you would have come to us with the request back before you connected the buildings, what would we have said? Okay, we'll start out with Marvin on the first one here. Is the request in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comp Plan?
Well, in one way, it is, because they talk about a safe entrance in a home. In another way, it is not being you're in a shoreland setback area, the 75 foot, where we normally don't grant it unless there's a special condition, like the safety issue like that. So that it's a double-edged sword on that one.
Okay, anybody else want to add to that?
I think it is. It's like I said, other times, it's almost a necessity to have a attached garage in Minnesota. It's almost getting that way. Also, when Marv said with the safety, it's away from the lake where they're at down in that corner in that peninsula. From the lakeside, it'd be hard to see the addition of the garage and that addition. And then also coming from the road, the way that narrows in there with the trees and things, I don't think that you would see it very good. I'm on the wrong question. But anyways, I just think, yeah, with the safety part and almost having a necessity, I'd have to have a garage in Minnesota. That's all I'd add, I guess.
Okay. Anybody else want to add? I guess I'd just like to point out that it's, that it is an addition onto a non-conforming structure. And normally, even though we're addressing these separately, normally we would try to, I think, almost all the time, try to make the situation better for the lake, for the people who use the lake, for water, natural resources, whatever. So we would be addressing things like the fact that, you've got a whole mess of stuff within the shore impact zone between the house and the lake. Our house is only 40 feet from the lake. Number one, should be 75 feet from the lake. And patio's only in the area between 50 feet and 75 feet. That's the way it should be. We can't get it back to that, but we would possibly have horse traded for patio for doing this, that's my opinion. I'm saying it is in harmony in the fact that water does seem to flow, as it was pointed out, from towards the road rather than towards the lake, from all of the building, from that building towards the lake, or towards the road. So that is a small thing, I mean, when you're that close to the lake, but it is important, and we have considered that many times, most times. Where does the water go? I agree with the safety, I agree with the not much difference from, what else would we have done? We probably would have allowed for a small structure rather than attaching the whole garage, some small entryway with a safety ramp. If it would have come to us before the garage was, even there, then the garage could have been placed back farther and that safety area done in a little larger space. But, so I agree. It is and it isn't. It is in conflict and it is in harmony in some respects. Anybody else want to add to that? Number 2, is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? We're starting out with Brent on that one.
I think as Clint stated, it's reasonable to have a attached garage to your home. And obviously, it's not permitted by the land use ordinance because it's a non-conforming structure. So it is reasonable to the extent to have that. And obviously, it is not permitted, so I would say yes.
Okay, anybody else like to add to that?
I'd just add that, they added it on away from the lake, even though it's not all conforming and all that. Adding it on away from the lake, that's reasonable. And then having a place, even though it's seasonal, an attached garage, inclement weather and things like that, with having somebody with some disability to be able to get in and out of their seasonal cabin, I think is reasonable.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Brent.
One other thing I just wanted to clarify, because I visited the site separately from you. I was told by the applicants that there was no additional living space by that, I don't know how else, if you want to call it a breezeway or the buffer, The in between the structure and the garage, that didn't create any additional living space, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the rest of the board had the same information there? All right, thank you.
I thought there was a bathroom in there.
There's a handicap bathroom, a closet, the entryway with another closet.
I think that's technically living space, isn't it?
Well, in the, our kids.
It's not a
looked
bedroom.
up in- Yeah, our kids looked up in the rules or whatever, and they said, it's on page 17, and they said that, in fact, I made a copy of it if I could find it, but it is not considered living space. It's,
Okay.
and if I find, you can go ahead, but I'll look for it.
All right, thanks. Okay, anybody like to add to number 2? Okay. Number 3, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? I get to start first. I think if I'm just looking at the garage itself, at the connecting that to the existing house, that, and I'll try to keep my remarks to just that, that yes, it would maintain the essential character of the locality. Large houses close to the lake, but no further encroachment. But if I issued that, if I were to vote for that and not address the lake shore, I can't separate the two that way. I would have to address the lake shore and the impervious surface between the house and the lake. Then essential character could be restored to the property, which is supposed to be lakeshore property, not concrete shore property. Anybody want to add to that, number 3? Number 4 is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property, starting with Clint.
Yeah, it's a non-conforming structure, it's too close to the lake. So then with that being said, I said before with safety and they want to keep utilizing this cabin and so that they can have a handicap accessible way into that by putting the attached garage, like I said, for the inclement weather, having a good entry to get in. I think the practical difficulty is that safety aspect and having the right to be able to get into a cabin and do it safely in all kinds of weather. I think, actually the cabin being too close to the lake is almost a practical difficulty for this one when you tied a safety part to it or the accessibility for a disabled person.
Okay, anybody want to add to that? Number 5 is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners. Hard to answer this question in lieu of the fact that it's after the fact, but we have to look at it as a before the fact. So, Dave, you get to lead us on this.
This question ties closely to question number 4 in that this was built before we've got these cabins that are built closer to the lake than what is currently allowed. And so that's an action, based on prior rules. We have to figure out how do we work with the non-conforming structures there. And it was conforming when it was built. And so the variance, anyway, in this, we're dealing with the garage right now, correct, Mr. Chairman?
Correct.
And so we've got a garage there and also too, the safety factors, I can go along with that. I think that's pretty important. And so I can also, on the variance here, that, in looking at those pictures with the overlapping eaves, you're splitting hairs there, I think, with that attached garage, and I believe it is not. So I have to vote yes on that one. It is created by actions other than landowners or prior landowners, yes.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Do you have enough there, Amy, for that
Depending on
reasons?
which way you vote, yes.
Okay. Okay, 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Starting with Marvin.
Okay, right. I don't believe they looked at just the economics. It sounds like after discussion, they talked about, first, the reason they did this was having a handicap access. Then they also looked at, okay, when the water comes off the roof, it's going to be running down this way, and it could be creating erosion. I know we're talking another piece of it being, and it could create erosion. So they placed some concrete there to prevent that erosion. So I think they were looking at much more than just the economic picture here.
Okay, any other discussion on number 7, or 6, I mean? Okay, are you ready to vote on the questions? Do we want to propose conditions prior to the vote?
So, Mr. Chair, what I would suggest is if any of these would be a yes with conditions, you would discuss those. You'd go through and vote, but before you make the motion, then you need to have if these are all answered in the affirmative, then you need to have the discussion on whether or not you're going to apply the after-the-fact criteria to this before you make the final motion, okay?
Okay. Did we all follow that? I don't know if I did. Okay,
So step 1, discuss any conditions that you would be making your vote one way or the other. Then take your vote. Before you ask for the motion, you need to talk with your fellow Board of Adjustment members to find out if they want to, it's your discretion on whether or not you want to apply the after-the-fact criteria, okay? So first would be discuss any conditions before you vote.
okay. Yeah. A condition that would allow me to vote yes on several of these that I said negative things about would be the removal of the impervious surface from that 50 feet of shore impact zone. You know, obviously, other than the boathouse, removing that concrete. So I don't know if anybody else is interested in that as a condition or not, but that's how my vote will be flavored. Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I know you just brought that up, but boy, oh boy, you go tearing out that concrete, can you imagine how you're going to establish erosion control if you do take out that concrete at this point? And I'm not being disagreeable, respectfully, I just don't know how. I think, we're talking now, but I think that maybe part of that concrete, but there's an awful lot of concrete there, and I don't know how you would control erosion. How would you get erosion control after that?
They'd certainly need help with a restoration plan from
Yeah, a lot of
Soil
work.
and Water, Land Services.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. They would certainly need help with that.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Brent.
I'm still trying to get my hands around this whole non-conforming sewer, but I think this is an opportune time to condition that. I think if we were going to grant a variance at the time, it would have to have conforming septic, and we're in 2022 and it's not. So now I'm wondering, do we condition after the fact and put a date on it to ensure that it actually gets accomplished?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I agree with Brent that we got to put some conditions here. And I think that Clint has been very respectful that, if you're going to get the septic done, you have to get it done. Is that I'm not talking about, I farm, and when I got to get a crop, I got to get it done. you guys, if they come up with these conditions, is that if Altrichter can't do it, you gotta find somebody else. I mean, I hope I'm respectful, Mr. Chairman, so.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I agree what was stated like that because I think we know other individuals that were in the same situation. Their place was shut down, not used, could not use it at all. And you're fortunate that they didn't do that to you yet, and we could do that right now, probably saying. But here, I think, I agree, put a date that this needs to be done.
Or what? They've already got their garage.
Well, but then the
Mr.
after the
Chair.
fact variance,
Mr. Chair,
Then
it would
it'd be
be,
no.
it would be two violations. It would be, they have an ongoing it's already a violation, but then it would be yet another one because they have violated the conditions of their variance. So both would be addressed in court.
So then if it wasn't done, would the variance be,
If they
No.
don't comply, then we handle that
okay,
legally.
okay,
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
I'm for the sewer, I'm not for the tearing out the concrete. But the sewer, I would say we'd give them 1 year from today because that gives them the rest of the summer and then also half of next summer.
Mr. Chair, I disagree.
I do too. I think ASAP.
Yes. I would say the end of this season.
I can live with that.
Okay. All right,
should we actually have a date for that? Because end
Mr.
of the
Chair, what I would
season-
say is, why don't you vote? And then and then whomever makes the motion, you can fine tune so we know that some of you are gonna be keeping in mind as you vote that the replacement of the septic system. And some of you are gonna be keeping in mind, though, if you're voting with the impervious surface. Whoever makes that motion is going to make a motion with whichever conditions you want. Then you're gonna poll, and then you can hone that in, because if you're focusing on your condition right now, you need to see if this is gonna pass first. If that makes sense.
okay. Any other conditions? We ready to vote? All right, is the request in harmony with the general purposes intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan, starting with Marvin?
Regretfully, yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself is no. Clint
Yes.
and Dave?
Yes.
Is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? We're starting out with Brent.
Yes.
Myself is yes. Clint,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
and Marv.
Yes.
Will the issuance of variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Myself is no. Clint,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Marv,
Yes.
and Brent.
Yes.
Number 4, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Clint,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Marv,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
myself is yes. Number 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? Dave,
Yes.
Marv,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
myself is yes. Clint,
Yes.
Number 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Marv,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
myself is yes. Clint,
Yes.
and Dave.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, since all of these have been answered in the affirmative, now you would need to discuss whether or not you are going to apply the after-the-fact criteria questions.
Mr. Chair, I don't think by going through them, we're gonna get anything. We discussed in depth all of these reasons why some of these things weren't done and this and that. I don't know what more we'd get out of that, but that's my thoughts only.
Mr. Chair, I'm recommending on the septic, we give them 90 days to be in compliant.
We're discussing the after-the-fact questions. Do you want to review those or not?
Mr. Chair, I just want to explain what these are. This is really where you do consider this is where you consider the after-the-fact criteria and whether or not the fact that you're on the back end of this makes a difference. These questions are different than what you just answered. And this is a weighing and balancing as far as how did we get here? What happened? So you've heard from the applicant what happened, and you've seen in the staff report what happened. This is where you weigh and balance that part on whether that changes the outcome. So that's what this is. And so, like I said, it's your discretion on whether or not you're going to apply these or not, but you need to decide as a group whether or not you're going to go through these criteria.
That given, I think it would not hurt to go through these. We haven't discussed, we've nibbled on the edges of some of them. We really haven't discussed quite a few of them with any detail. So I would say yes, that we would go through. Clint? Sure. Go, okay. Dave?
Yeah.
Okay, three of us want to go through, we'll all go through it. Okay, why did the applicant fail to obtain a variance or comply with the applicable requirements before commencing work? If we can't answer it, we can't answer it. Did the applicant act in good faith? Why or why not?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Dave.
I've asked myself this same question. I'm just going to tell you, I farm, and I know the rules. And I know that if I don't abide by those rules, I'm in trouble. And I kind of don't understand why you went ahead and did some. I'll be right straight out, why you did this without, I hate to say, but I think you knew better, okay? I mean, I'm not a very good lecturer. You're still good people. I just think that maybe you did some things that maybe shouldn't have been done. But that's my thoughts, respectfully.
I think you did respectfully say that, and I ditto what you said.
Mr.
Yes.
Chair,
Go ahead,
can we
Clint.
go back to question one? I'd like to answer that.
What's that?
Can we go back to question one? I'd like to answer that.
We are on question one.
Oh, you moved it to.
No, we're on question one. Why did
You
the
still
applicant?
are?
Why did the applicant fail to obtain a variance or comply with the applicable requirements? Did the applicant act in good faith?
Oh, that's one, okay.
Did the applicant act in good faith?
Okay, so I'll answer the first part of it. First, just.
So you're,
So why they failed to comply or get a variance, and the reason this garage got on is I think it was, yeah, it's their fault, but it's misinterpretation of what they thought replacing a building was. When she explained overlapping roofs, I don't know, that's what I come up with. I don't know that they just said, hell with the county, we're gonna build a garage. I don't know. I don't feel that. Did they act in good faith? They truly think they did. I don't know. That's my answers for it, but.
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
I look back, and goes back to 2015, the septic. I think a lot of society lately, it seems like ignoring the problem go away. And they continue to ignore and continue to ignore. It is really frustrating. It's not fun being up here. I'm paying someone to watch my wife that's handicapped at home, and I should be home with her. And I'm listening to people that it sounds like you're really good people, who've got a great reputation and everything, but ignoring the law, and I'm stuck in this situation. I'm supposed to hear both sides. It doesn't make it easy for me. And here, that's why I said we need to draw a hard line here and start moving on. It's frustrating at this being a sin.
Yep, I'd just like to add that there was a DRT meeting, a development review team meeting, that clearly stated what they could and could not do within days of when the permit was granted for the garage. And then you ignored those things and went and did them, ignored them, forgot them, whatever. Number two, are we ready for number two? Did the applicant attempt to comply with the law by obtaining the proper permits? Why or why not?
Well, I think they attempted to comply with obtaining the garage permit, but I don't know that there was a permit to replace that addition. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then there was, just the decision to connect the two, which wasn't granted by a variance.
And why or why not? I'm not sure why or why not. Overlooked it. There was Neil was sick at the time, so the other people involved overlooked it. Bad advice from other people, I don't know why.
I think it was interpretation error. I think that's what they told us it was, whether that is or isn't, that's what we were told.
Sure. Yep. You're right. I agree with that. Even after quite a bit of schooling by land services. On to number three, did the applicant obtain a permit from another entity that violated the law? I don't think that applies here, no. Did the applicant make a substantial investment? Certainly, we all agree with that. Did the applicant complete the repairs, construction before the applicant was informed of the impropriety? How do we answer that?
Probably the garage part, I would think.
Well, what came first, the garage? The detached garage was first, then the attached. I mean, that's what we're discussing.
Well, the notice of the impropriety, it's dated, right? I mean, we have that. So we have the date, I mean, that's documented, that's a part of the record.
He attached a conforming structure to a non-conforming structure and made it all a non-conforming.
Yeah, so I think the construction took place before they were notified, but they did get a permit for a detached and made it an attached. So,
That's probably enough of an answer. Is everybody comfortable with that? Okay. Number 6 is the nature of the property residential, recreational, or and not commercial. And I guess that really doesn't apply here, does it? And number 7 are other similar structures on the lake. Provide details. Similar structures. Structures within the shore impact zone with attached garage.
I'm gonna
Probably.
assume
Probably, but not with all that concrete, that's all I'll tell you.
Not with all that concrete. Thank you, Mark. Similar structures, yeah, and a boathouse and been 72 years in the family. That makes it rather unique. So, we have to weigh this against,
Good, number 8.
Chair, you've got one more question. You have a second page.
oh, I'm sorry. Which one is that?
number
There should
8.
be a second page.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here, just-
Yep, I got more. Would the minimum benefits to the county appear to far outweigh, appear to be far outweighed by the detriment the applicant would suffer if forced to remove the structure? I guess personal opinion, just talking about the garage, the benefits to the county would not outweigh the detriment to the applicant, in my opinion. Because if we're just talking about the garage, there appears to be a fair watershed there. There appears to be there appears to be things that we can put in place to make it a better, with conditions, it could be a better project. So, in my opinion. Anybody else? In light of all the above factors, would denying a variance serve the interest of justice?
Mr. Chair, I'd just say no, and the reason I'd say no is just for what you just stated in the last question. It'd be, the detriment to the county would be pretty minimal.
And we might have, before the fact, permitted something similar to this.
Yes.
Okay, BOA should weigh and balance each of the elements when deciding whether the variance application should be granted. So do we go back to answering these questions at some point, or do we answer them with this?
You answer them as a whole now, and so your decision will be applying the above criteria. Has the applicant made a showing of practical difficulty? And you're using your first set of criteria questions and the way you voted there, any conditions, and then also these after the fact. You're considering all of that as a whole, and you're going to, and then you'll do that roll call vote.
With conditions in mind,
Yes, you still have the ability to put conditions on, yes.
okay? I think we're pretty clear on the one condition. I voted with the idea that you were not going to condition the concrete removal. I don't know, I'd still like to throw that out there. Are you conditioning this with concrete removal from the shore impact zone? That's my proposal, but I don't know if anybody else is interested. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I don't think we can remove all that concrete. I think we can remove the stuff that was put in recently, the fire pit, and then I don't know how necessary that other piece of concrete is for safety.
And Mr. Chair,
That's another question.
you're gonna be voting on that, on those two pieces of concrete in your next
I'm sorry,
separate.
I'm sorry.
So
No, no.
that's really not even
That's
on the
not a
table.
condition here.
No.
Okay.
No.
Right now, the way I'm looking at, Mr. Chair, should have addressed you earlier properly, is forget the concrete and the septic having 90 days and have a compliant septic put in. And whoever you get, you need to get it done ASAP because you're lucky that you're still able to be in that and use that facility.
So you're looking at one condition or two?
One condition, that septic would be in compliant within 90 days.
Okay. Is that all everybody's looking at when answering this question? I guess so. That's what it looks like. Okay. Applying the above criteria, has the applicant made a showing of practical difficulty? We'll go right down the line. Marvin?
Yes, with the condition.
Dave? Brucher?
Yes?
Myself is no. Clint?
Yes, with the condition.
And Brent?
Yes, with that condition.
If the majority voted yes, the criteria for granting the variance have been met. The findings of fact are based on public hearing and any exhibit, yeah, whatever. So I guess
I need a motion.
the motion,
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve this request with the condition of a proper sewer being in within 90 days.
I would like to second that.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Only discussion would be the sewer that was originally designed or approved was a holding tank. And
Correct.
they discussed having a tier 3. Is it appropriate now that that be addressed in this, at this time?
You certainly can require that they just have a compliant septic system, which could be just the holding tank, or it could be a tank with a drain field.
That's what I suggested, a compliant within 9 days.
And either one of those would be compliant.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I meant in my motion, so.
Just for clarification.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, you have a motion and a second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. There's any other discussion other than septic? Okay, thank you for that clarification. We'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye, opposed say nay. Starting with Marvin,
Aye.
Brent,
Aye.
myself is nay, Clint,
Aye.
and Dave.
Aye.
Okay, on to the next part of the question is the concrete. And,
So just for clarity, Mr. Chair, the first part of the variance has been granted with the condition that you get that septic system installed within 90 days. Okay, so now you're moving on to the concrete?
yep,
Okay.
thanks for clarifying that. Okay, so we're just looking at those two little pieces of concrete on there, right? The one around the fire pit and one around the corner of the house.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Are we ready for the questions? Okay. Is,
Mr. Chair, just a second, I need one more sheet here that I don't have. I need the action, not the voting sheet, but do you have another reason sheet? Okay, I'll just do it on the back. No, I'll just do it on the back. Okay, Mr. Chair. Okay, then get me a piece of paper. Okay. All right, I'm ready.
okay, is the request in harmony with the general purposes intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? I guess we start out with, Marvin, you okay starting out on this?
Sure, not a problem. I don't believe it is. Adding more impervious surface and shore impact zone is a big no-no.
Okay, anybody else want to add to that? Question number 2, is the applicant proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by land use ordinance? Brent?
You know, looking at just the concrete there, I think part of it is for safety purposes, it's reasonable, but it's not permitted because it's in an area that's not allowed. So I think that is, but the other portion is not. The fire pit and the concrete on the other side of the house.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah, I guess we got both negative and positive there, so I guess either way vote, there's a reason. Correct, Amy?
Yes.
Will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? I start out on that one, and yeah, adding on to impervious surface in the shore impact zone is not in keeping with the desired essential character of shoreline, let alone not good for the environment, not good for natural resources or surface water. Anybody else like to add to that? Is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Clint?
I'd say no. Everything that's in concrete there is in the shore impact zone. We could talk maybe with safety, but there's already enough concrete there for that. So I just have to say probably no.
Anybody like to add? Is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners, Dave?
No, that's pretty clear. That concrete, it wasn't, they poured the concrete, so, no.
Okay, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Marvin?
I think it is more than economics. I mean, they looked at possibility in a dry year, which they first put it up in there, that they didn't want to create a fire. So I mean, in that respect, give you credit, you wanted to not destroy the area already. So it was definitely more than economic considerations.
Okay, I'd just like to add that this is the alleged practical difficulty, which does not exist. But I agree with what you said, Marv. It is more than just that, if we look at it as the alleged practical difficulty. He has safe entrance to the house, from his garage to his house. I don't know that you're guaranteed any more safety than that. There are other ways to attack that safety issue. The routing of water. There's no better place for water to go than on a pervious surface. If it needs to be directed back, it can be done with gutters or something else. So, yeah, I'm going to have trouble even voting no on this one. So, anything to add to number 6? Okay, we're ready for the vote then. Is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? Marvin?
No.
Brent?
No.
Myself is no. Clint?
No.
And Dave?
No,
Is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? Brent? Brent, we're starting out with Brent.
I'm going to say no.
Okay, myself is no. Clint?
No.
Dave?
no,
And Marvin?
No.
Okay, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Myself is no. Clint?
No.
Dave?
no,
Marvin?
No.
And Brent?
No.
Is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Clint?
No.
Dave?
no,
Marvin?
No.
Brent?
No.
And myself is no. Is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? Dave?
no,
Marvin?
No.
Brent?
No.
Myself, no. And Clint?
No.
Does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Marvin?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Clint?
Yes.
Dave?
yes,
Okay, only one of the criteria questions was answered in the affirmative. Is there a vote to deny this variance request?
I make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of denying these concrete additions to the patio, signify by saying aye. Opposed, say no, nay. Marvin?
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Clint?
Aye.
And Dave?
Aye,
Okay, variance is denied for the concrete additions. So, do we have to do after the fact?
No.
Because we denied.
Correct.
And we've already done those once. Pretty similar answers they would be. So, do you understand what took place tonight?
Just so we're clear, we're taking out the fire pit and we're taking out the other.
Corner.
Correct.
Okay, and the septic in 90 days.
Septic in 90 days, and you do need to pull permits now for
Both.
the addition that
For
you
the-
put on. You need to permit what's been done. So the garage, the square footage of the garage has been permitted, but that addition needs to be permitted. So we need to formalize that with permitting.
Okay, so we come into the office and
Yes.
get that.
Yes.
And the septic and,
Yep, you're gonna
Pardon me?
need to get that septic design in first.
okay,
Everything triggers the septic inspection and septic stuff, so you'll
Okay.
need to be prepared to pull your permit and your septic design when you come in for that.
okay.
Mr. Chair, can I address them?
Yes. Go
I
ahead.
would recommend that you go on a day and talk with either Sharon or Amy on this to make sure that we know the history.
Oh, yeah,
make sure
it'll get
that-
referred to us anyway.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, can I get excused? I need to be home. I can't leave her alone any longer here.
Okay. Have a good night, Marv. Thank you.
Thanks, Marv.
Okay, I guess got to get in touch with Land Services. Call Land Services whenever you're doing anything on your property to find out the correct way to do it.
Well, and then listen.
Yeah, okay, so we come into you, so if we,
Correct.
if we would come into you, get a,
I'm in and out a lot, so you'll want,
Okay.
if you, Sharon's probably the better person to deal with.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we get the design.
Correct.
correctly,
Yes,
Come in, then we can do everything.
correct. Yep.
Perfect.
And
Okay.
and it might seem like we scolded you, but you guys got off really good.
Pardon me?
Might seem like we were hard on you, but you got off really good.
Thank you. All right,
You could always improve your shoreline on your own volition, on your own free will, for the good of everybody. You could. I would recommend it. There's a lot of help from Soil and Water in restoring shoreline. There's a lot of help at Land Services for the same thing. Stormwater plans, same thing, both places. It's always better to work with people than butt heads with them.
Okay, Mr. Chair, ready to move on?
I think my sermon's over.
okay,
Yep, new business, old business, please.
Minutes of the previous meeting? We're okay with that?
They're moving on.
Excuse.
Yes.
thank you.
Is there a motion to accept? I'll second that. Motion to accept the meetings as, or the minutes as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Old business, new business?
Mr. Chair, I don't think I have any of either. Do we? I don't think we do. No.
When, just one question that don't pertain to this was planning, but when are we doing the ordinances?
We're going to be putting those on the August 30th.
Okay, so it'll be a while yet.
Yes.
Okay. Make a motion adjourn.
Okay, second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Meeting adjourned, 9:53.